Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Adapted Life podcast. This is Julie Hasselberger, and this is episode 14. So, I'm going to talk a little bit this time about vacation and traveling because it is something that we just did. And as I was going through the process, it struck me that it would be a pretty interesting topic to share with people who may not know all of the things that go into bringing a disabled person traveling. So we just took a trip, and I want to add something here just so that you know. When Daniel was smaller, it was really difficult as well, but he was smaller. So now that he's an adult, um, his need for assistance with mobility, transferring, bathing, caregiving in general has increased substantially. So if we're blessed to be able to take Daniel on a vacation, which we have been pretty blessed, the planning is pretty much at a ridiculous level. I mean, ridiculous. It's when I see everything out on my kitchen table, I'm like, what in the world am I thinking? So here's some of the biggies of the things that I have to go through in my mind just to prepare Daniel, and that's not even everything else. So I need to make sure, number one, that we have enough of his medication with us, both his daily medications, his as needed medications, his rescue seizure medications. Some of Daniel's medications are considered controlled substances, so we can only fill them like 30 days at a time. If we're going to be traveling and it crosses over the refill date, there is some planning that goes into calling the doctor for what they call a vacation override. And when you're going out of state, you want to make sure that all of these things are done way in advance because you don't want to be stuck without, very, very important medication and not be able to get what you need. So I have a list of his medications, all of them. Um, and I go through this list and I make sure that we have enough for the amount of days that we're going to be gone. So number two is just supplies, gathering together supplies that I need for Daniel. I have a checklist for this: diapers, adult wipes, soft cloth bed pads, disposable bed pads, special skin creams, prescription medications he has, and then all of the supplies for his feeding pump, the charger for the pump, the feeding pump bags, extensions, syringes, a spare kit for changing his G-tube button, um, all of those things. And there's respiratory supplies as well. His nebulizer, the nebulizer tubing, the nebulizer masking, that kind of thing. Um, there's just a lot of supplies involved in his daily care. And number three is the clothing that he needs. Of course, we need to make sure he has enough. And Daniel does, soil his clothing a lot. I need to make sure he has his shoes, his socks, his shirts, sweatshirts, a raincoat, whatever, sweatpants, socks for the AFOs, which are the braces themselves, shoes, pool shoes, drooling bibs that we have, just all of the things that he is going to need. He can't do anything for himself, so I have to do it all for him. Then there's equipment, and we do have a lot of equipment for Daniel, and we don't bring all of it with us, but there is his wheelchair and the wheelchair tray, the toolkit for the wheelchair, so that if it gets loose or the headrest needs to be adjusted, I can fix it. The special needs stroller that takes him for walks. It's very, very nice. We use that sometimes. His bath chair, nebulizer, respiratory vest, his computer for eye gaze, his iPad, all of the chargers and adapters that we need. And now we also have a portable Hoyer lift for transferring him safely from chair to chair, chair to bed, and that's just a godsend. And we have ramps that we bring because the house that we go to has, a slight step up or two to get in and out, and that's just off the top of my head. So if we're going to swim in a pool, we also think ahead. We have special pool equipment for Daniel. He has special swim diapers and just unique clothes that he wears when he goes in the water to cover his G-tube and keep him safe from sunburn. He has a life flotation jacket thing that we use. Other swim devices that help him float and things that he could play with in the water. that kind of thing. So we recently went to Cape Cod back in the beginning of June. Today is June 23rd. And we are very blessed to be able to use a family member's home at the Cape. And John did work from home, and I did as well a little bit. And most of the time, we just relaxed. Me and Daniel, that is. That is. Yeah, I did some writing and some recording and some uploading. But so, anyway, in advance, we need to know the layout of the place that we will be staying. Any concerns such as entryway thresholds, do we need a ramp? That kind of thing. Like, where would we store everything? I bring bed risers because the bed there, it's not quite high enough to fit the Hoyer underneath. So you have to know like the size of things. Hoyers are like a base that has to roll under the bed so you can easily glide in and off the bed, right? So that you just have to know the environment to which you're going to. Extra support pillows because the bed there doesn't have articulation. And usually I just go through what am I going to need to keep him as comfortable or as close to as comfortable at the vacation place as he does at home. And it's just a lot of thinking ahead. And I never used to do a full blown checklist like I do now, but I highly advise this. It sounds a little bit anal, but you know what? I sit down with a piece of paper and I make a checklist with little boxes next to everything, literally everything I can think of that I need to bring. I did it just for Daniel, and then I'm like, I'm going to do it for myself, and then I'm going to do it for the dogs. And John takes care of John, which is like, that's his world, right? He's easy peasy. So packing to go, that's just packing to go. And it's just incredibly crazy. Like if you see it all out, it gives John terrible anxiety just seeing all the stuff. Once we get there and get it put away, and when we come home, it's not so bad because we have used all most of it, right? Or whatever. There's just no easy way to do it. And when I fly, if I'm going to fly somewhere, which every once in a while we do that with him, it's similar but different because I have to ship stuff or order stuff and have stuff delivered. And of course I can buy things in the places that I'm going, and I do that as well, but a lot of the stuff is, paid for through insurance, so why would I spend extra money? It's just a lot. If we're flying, also, we have to book special seating in advance. We have to make sure we have assistance to get him on the plane. I have to make sure I have his pump and all of his medications and special medication in case he has anxiety. Honestly, sometimes I think it's just really kind of like you don't know if he's going to be really calm or really anxious, and it's a little tricky. But most of the time, we've done pretty well on 3-hour flights, and maybe we'll try a flight to California one of these days. I don't know. I think you'd do okay. It's a lot to prepare in advance. So there's other concerns like gate checking the wheelchair. One time an airline like broke his chair. Um, and then renting a vehicle on the other end that will transport him safely. So it's tricky. And honestly, my biggest fear, and I think anyone who is a caregiver or knows of someone who is disabled, is that an incontinent, is if he has a bowel movement and has to be changed. And when you go out in public, there's nowhere to change an adult, right? They don't have adult changing tables. They don't have space for that. They have handicapped restrooms, but usually it's just a big room. So it's really difficult, and it's one of the biggest challenges that a lot of people face when they're traveling with their child or adult who needs to be laid out so that they can change them and clean them hygienically and take care of them and make them comfortable. It just isn't really, I mean, our country doesn't seem to have a concern about that in most public places, airports, stuff like that. So you got to bring a lot of things with you, special pads, special sanitizing stuff. Anyway, ah, driving isn't as challenging as flying, and we are not flying this year. We're driving a lot. So driving is a little better in the sense that we can stop and tend to things as we go along the road. But with two packed vehicles in a caravan, we also can't easily change Daniel's diaper or give him a stretch out of his chair. So honestly, he's done pretty well on the last 2 or 3 trips that were almost 4 hours long. He seemed very calm, very happy. So we were very grateful for that. We do have a very old wheelchair van. It's 18 years old. It's a 4250 conversion with an under vehicle lift. And we do need a new wheelchair van like yesterday. Like we would like to get a minivan with a ramp, a simpler vehicle than what we have now. We got it when our kids were little. And so we have a little anxiety over anything that could go wrong since it is not the most reliable vehicle. But for now, it's okay. It's okay. So someday I'll make that dream happen with that new Toyota Sienna white minivan with the ramp on the side that will be all equipped with all the bells and whistles that we need. So, you know how much that costs? Like $70,000. The new ones, anyhow. Anyways, we need a new van. So it's on my list to research that. Just putting it out there. I have that on the list. It's one of the goals. It's on my goal and vision board. It's even on I have a picture of the van that I want on the front of my laptop. I just don't have the money to outlay it. So I got to think creatively on in terms of how we're going to acquire that. So for now, the van we have is running and she's doing okay. So we get to where we get to. Once we get to the vacation place, since currently my nursing agency will not let nurses go out of state, that means I have no care and no help with Daniel once I get there. So there's a lot more on my shoulders for caring for Daniel. So this means we have to research places in terms of wheelchair accessibility. Everywhere we go, we bring Daniel. And so some places are pretty accessible, some aren't. Swimming pools on vacations also do not always have pool access for the disabled. Um, People will say, well, yeah, they have a lift, and every lift isn't created equal. Sometimes a public pool will, or a hotel pool or whatever will have a lift, but if it's not one that is made for somebody who can't sit on their own or hold themselves up or doesn't have straps to help, it really is actually dangerous. So for somebody like Daniel, you have to have the right support and safety straps and harnesses so he doesn't like fall out while you're moving him into the water. But a lot of times, the appropriate equipment to put him in and out of the water doesn't exist. Sometimes it does, and it's a blessing, and we're just so happy. But for the most part, we have to get like creative with that. And even beaches that have pool or beach wheelchairs, a lot of them do now, the big wheels and you can roll on the sand, or the ones that float in the water. The challenge there, and people say, oh, there's so many things for the disabled. Well, if you're the actual person caring for the person in the wheelchair, you know that when that wheelchair that comes out of your van, you got to get that person into that other chair. And if it's not an easy lift, it it's like, well, how are we going to do that, right? So maybe 2, 3 person lift if you have a lot of people with you, but if you're by yourself, it's not going to happen. Um, and keep everybody safe, keep him safe and me safe and whoever safe. So that's really difficult. So planning events and activities involving water, play, and all that is a lot of involved thinking. And it's all worth it if we can get him into the water and see that big smile because he loves to swim. So we do the best we can with the resources we can acquire in the places that we go to. And it's a lot. So, you have to kind of adapt as best you can to what is there. So like if they don't have a pool access lift and they have stairs, then we figure out the safest way possible to double carry him into the water in the life vest and all that kind of stuff. Also, restaurants, when you go out, restaurants don't always have ample space for the wheelchair, especially if they're busy in a lot of vacation places like Cape Cod. Restaurants can get pretty busy. So we tend to just seek the ones that have outside setting, which a lot of them do now coming out of COVID. They still have, a lot of, nice outdoor sitting. And so I do some advanced research into sort of what the places look like and where the seating is. And these days I bring the dogs, so we find a place that's dog friendly and outdoor, and we just kind of go with the flow and make sure that everybody can be present. And I have to research that because not all places have easy access, especially ones that are sort of antique and old or, niche. It's not always easy to get Daniel into them. And yeah, so wheelchair access. People assume that most places are, oh yeah, wheelchair accessibility. If you're not in the chair and facing that shop with the awkward threshold, you might not understand what I'm talking about. But not every place that doesn't have stairs is easy to get into because sometimes there's a bump or a narrow doorway. Sometimes there's steps, and they'll have like an ad hoc lift in the back, right? A lot of times these older antique or historic buildings will not have access because it never was there. So they add a ramp somewhere in the building and you got to find it. And a lot of times we find ourselves walking through really weird places to get to the front again. Um, and and that's all right. Some places they try, but it's just really hard. We went to this little mall of gift shops once, and it was really hard because once you get into the gift shop, you might be able to get in there, but you know how gift shops are, these little, unique boutiques, and there's things everywhere. And so it's when you have a lot of people in the store and you have this wheelchair and you're coming in with this person, and then it's this narrow, eh, and then you get Daniel doing this, and things are flying, Yeah, it doesn't work very well. It's very stressful. And a lot of the little shops are like that, especially out on the Cape. It's lovely if you're not in this scenario to go in there and wander, but it's challenging, and the enjoyment of it has changed for me over the years because I used to just like to wander, and so now we try to figure out a way to let Julie go shop and John take care of Daniel because it's something I like to do and not easy to bring Daniel to. Not all places. Some places we do bring Daniel to that are fine. It's just generally speaking, little places, little t-shirt shops and things like that is what I'm talking about. Um, let's see what else happens on our vacation that we have to adapt to. So activities. So what are we going to do with this guy, right? So it's challenging. And where are we going to go when the main activities that people enjoy are hiking, biking, beach, swimming, boating, all that kind of stuff. So it's a beautiful place to be. And what I've done now, especially more this year, I don't know, my mindset is different, is really try to take a look at what there is instead of what there isn't. So what there is. I made this long list. Now, Daniel and I did a lot of activities because John was working full time the second week we were away. Like I knew that there was a little the Cape Cod National Natural History Museum, and so I in advance looked at all the different attractions and exhibits they had, and like I saw they had a butterfly thing and looked at the details there. And they have fish tanks, and I remembered that he really liked the fish tanks. It's a little tricky at this museum because the fish tanks are located on the lower level. They don't have wheelchair access inside, so you got to walk out and around. But we thought we would just give it a go. And while I was there, I said, wow, let's just see what is here. And instead of being frustrated, I was just like, amazed at the things that just popped up to me. Like there was this room and it had all these sensory bins and things. And it was designed for little kids, right? To like feel sand or feel what the woodpecker does or feel what the shells, I don't know, all these different activities, right? And that was perfect for Daniel. So as soon as the school kids left, which was like 15 minutes into our visit on like there was elementary school visiting, they left and the place emptied out and I was like, let's go. So we went in there and I was able to put all these sensory bins in front of him, and people just started coming over and saying, hey, what if this, can you try this? And it was really cool. And I was just really amazed. Next thing I know, we're face to face with tadpoles and all these workers and volunteers. I don't know, maybe all the kids had left, so they saw me with Daniel, and they were offering, their little extra assistance, and I was very grateful. So we did that, and then when I went into the butterfly house with him, it was tricky to get him in there. So once he got in there, because they had gravel, and his wheelchair doesn't roll on gravel, it gets stuck every 2 seconds. But they helped me get him in there, and then all the butterflies started landing on him, and it was just and they saw how I was speaking to him and realized he was nonverbal, and so these 2 ladies were speaking to him very similarly, and he was just amazed and looking at all the butterflies, and he thought that was the greatest thing ever. So I was very excited about that, and, you look for the bright side. Yeah, and then we can't get them down to the beach where we are because it's a cliff and it has stairs going down. So instead, Dale and I go over and we look at the ocean. But there are a couple of local beaches that do have a little boardwalk. And sometimes we just want to go where we're at the level with the water, and I can put sand on his tray or make him a little bucket of shells and water, but then we take him swimming in the pool, so he has swimming. I don't think I would take him swimming at Cape Cod. I would in Florida down on the Gulf, but in Florida, I mean, at Cape Cod on the bayside, the water, even at high tide, is very shallow and not it wouldn't be easy to get him in and out, and so if I took him to the other side, it's where the big waves are, and I'm not sure with all the shark sightings that I would wanna go in there myself these days. I put my feet in, that's about it, but there's big sand dunes, it's a little trickier, but we take the environment and the sensory experience and we modify it, right? Anyway, we have lots of things on our to-do list, for our next trip in July. We're going back in July, and I'm excited about that. I'm gonna explore some of the ponds, and there's a pond that has supposedly really good access for swimming, and just, you know, reach out, and I talk to a lot of people. That's where I get a lot of ideas, and I am also looking into a company that will provide partial home care. So I'm gonna see if I can get some home care, and that's gonna be expensive because 'cause I'll have to pay for it out of pocket, but even if it's a couple of days, so John and I can have a date or go to the beach or take the bikes for a bike ride, so we're trying to work it in and just adapt our experience with assistance, and it takes some work, but again, to stay positive, what is there? How can that help us? And are we enjoying our time? And are we happy? And that's what matters. So I now have, like I said, that Cape Cod 2022 bucket list for Daniel friendly places and things to do. And we all just adapt around it. So John and I, we used to get upset about it. Oh, it stinks. We can't do anything together. But we will. Like I said, we're going to hopefully um, engineer in some help. And I've tried, asking nurses to go with us. I'm not sure at this point if that's going to happen, but maybe in the future. But Daniel is very, very open to new adventures. He's not like scared or intimidated or anxious. He laughs. He's amazed. He's face to face with the fish and staring at these big fish, whatever they were, like supposedly they're all local fish, but I don't know. And I'm like, you did. And he's laughing at the lobster. They have the big lobster with coming at you. And he's just like, whoa, that's because he can get face to face. The tanks are big, so the wheelchair goes like right up to it. Sorry. I just my mind goes everywhere, right? Julie's mind is like that sometimes because there's always something popping something else in there. So takes a lot of forethought. It takes a lot of work. Sometimes things happen. So there is a risk element in traveling with somebody who's medically fragile. And it's something that, you have to keep in the back of your mind all the time so that you're aware, okay, something goes wrong, what's going to happen? We've had some pretty scary situations where, despite our best efforts to make everything work, something goes terribly wrong. For example, we were in Disney. Daniel had a wish trip through Dream Come True, Western Connecticut Dream Come True. And we were at Animal Kingdom on this beautiful week of dolphin swimming and Disney World. And we went into Animal Kingdom. It was towards the end of the trip. And no sooner had we gotten to the park and we were all excited about going on the safari and doing all that, that Daniel started having a massive seizure. And I had to go in an ambulance with him, and we ended up spending the rest of the trip in the hospital for a little while. And then the neurology team didn't want to fly him yet, so we ended up just kind of like watching him he was being watched in the hospital on observation. And sometimes, he's gotten real sick and, big fevers out of the blue, and healthy becomes optional, I guess is what I was trying to say. But I would say over his 24 years of life, for the times that we have traveled with him, most of the time it's worked out really, really beautifully. And so the happy memories have outweighed the scary problems and the dangerous circumstances. And sometimes you just have to be willing to understand that. Um, you can't just I don't know, I don't feel like it's fair to him to keep him home all the time, so we do the best we can to understand and minimize the risk. We've never left him behind for our own convenience for a fun vacation. It's all of us or none of us, and of course now not all of us go because my kids are adults and they're busy in their own lives. But to be honest, even taking Daniel to the local park or to walk around in Target requires a lot of planning and care in general. It's not a just go thing for me for anything. So it is just who he is, who we are. And in our travels, he smiles that big, beautiful smile. And I feel so grateful that we've been able to kind of step out, and he flails his arms and he laughs and he smiles, and it's just so contagious when you see how happy that he is, and to know that we're a part of bringing him that joy when his life is so limited. It's just such an incredibly rewarding thing to feel and experience. And I just that's what I do. That's what I do. So every sore, aching muscle in my fibromyalgia body, every bag of supplies and things I have to bring, the list is long. And of course, there's always extra because, like, I bring art supplies and all. I mean, you name it. We are, as Daniel's caregivers, his eyes, his ears, his legs, his arms, his window to the world. And we don't know for certain how much he understands and processes. And so we try to give him as much as we can so that his life is worthwhile, so he has enjoyment. So at least he's stimulated and happy, and things bring him joy. And that's what I try to adapt things to, um, as best that I can, given having to do so many other things at the same time. He doesn't ask me for anything. He's so grateful for just being comfortable and changed to clean and dry. He he needs a break from the town that we live in also. So that's why we are so grateful for being able to get away, honestly. And to have a place to go. I mean, hotels are just really hard. So to have a house that he's now familiar with and comfortable in is just like, wow. I mean, my kids, my whole family, me, the five of us, we grew up with everything being such a big deal. Like when it came to going anywhere, travel, vacation, and we didn't always travel, but I don't know. I think now when my kids go places that they go on their own trips and things, I think they really realize how nice it is to be able to just have the ability to plan your trip, pack your own suitcase, and then just like go, instead of having to worry about medications and equipment and supplies and all that. And but yet they have a sense of real deep value and gratitude for what they have, and I think that's a good thing. You know. And I'm always just grateful to be with my family. I don't mind the hard work, not one bit. I don't sleep much when I'm on vacation. I don't rest the same way. But, John allows, we work it in, so he knows that I need my Julie Beach time. In this past time, I spent lots of time sitting down there on the beach, just enjoying and meditating and writing and thinking and coming up with new ideas and just really treasuring that. So we have a couple more trips this summer to out to the Cape again. So I'm making those lists again because every season or every month it changes in the summer. June was okay. It was kind of cool. July will be okay, but hotter. And August will also be hot. So that is Julie's take on life with a very severely disabled person. And yeah, and I upload videos to the YouTube channel of our activities on vacation. So you can see a lot of this in video form too. When I get those videos uploaded, you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook. I put pictures up and I post stories and things along the way as well. So I just want to say that I am so grateful to be here on this podcast journey with you. And my life has been really transcending and ascending to a new state of just um, just self-love and gratitude and purpose. And it is why I'm here doing this. And I am following my heart and my intuition. And I have many tools that have led me to get to this point. So in future episodes, I'd like to share with you guys some of the tools that have really helped me, especially over the past 2 years, develop a much more positive mindset and step into more of who I am and what my purpose is, and this joyful living, this sense of self, and becoming more in touch with my higher self, and so much more. So ways to just really improve life as a woman, a mother, a career person, somebody who is really wanting to step into creating more and doing more and becoming an inspiration and encouragement and a help to other people who are struggling with adversity and negativity and all of the stuff that just flows down like a thunderstorm when your life is difficult. So even in this really, really tough times, I've really leaned into it is possible with all these challenges to also have a joyful, purposeful, beautiful, meaningful life. So that's all I'm going to say for now. I'm so grateful to have gone on vacation to the Cape. Got a little bit of a tan, see, a little bit. You can see. If you're watching the video, you can see. Anyway, yeah, that was really fun. So I love the ocean. I love the beach. And I love the family member very dearly who allows us to use her home. And she's just a beautiful soul. And yeah, so we'll see you next time. Signing off from the Adapted Life podcast. I hope you are having a good day. I hope you will come back for more. I hope you will keep listening and keep encouraging and keep being you. And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.